Assalamu alaikum. Hi everyone, my name is Purimala and today we are talking about ChatGPT and how it can help us understand powerful learning techniques like spaced repetition and habit loop to earn smarter and stay consistent. Hi ChatGPT, I have a question for you and my first question is what is spaced repetition and why does it work better than priming?
Hey, absolutely great question. Spaced repetition is a learning technique where you review information at increasing intervals over time. Instead of cramming everything in one go, you revisit the material just as you're about to forget it. This method helps strengthen memory retention and improves long term recall. It works better than cramming because it leverages the brain's natural forgetting curve and reinforces knowledge just in time. If you have any more questions about it, feel free to ask.
Okay, great answer. And the next question is how does this application affect long-term memory in the brain?
Awesome. So spaced repetition impacts long-term memory by reinforcing neural pathways. Each time you review the information, you strengthen the connections in your brain, making it easier to recall that info later. Over time, this process helps transfer knowledge from short-term to long-term memory, making the information more durable and resistant to forgetting. Essentially, it optimizes the brain's natural learning and memory consolidation processes. If you want more details or examples, let me know.
And my next question is what is the difference between spaced repetition and active recall?
Great question. Space repetition and active recall are actually complementary techniques. Active recall involves actively trying to remember information without looking at the answer, like testing yourself on a flashcard. Spaced repetition, on the other hand, is about reviewing that information at strategically timed intervals to reinforce it over time. In essence, active recall focuses on the effort of retrieving information, while spaced repetition focuses on the timing of those retrievals. When combined, they enhance learning even further, making the process super effective. If you'd like more details or examples, just let me know.
Okay, my next question is how can I use spaced repetition for learning skill, not just memorizing?
Absolutely. Spaced repetition isn't just about memorizing facts. It can also help with skill development. For example, if you're learning a new language, you can use spaced repetition to practice vocabulary, grammar rules, and sentence structures at intervals that reinforce learning. Similarly, for skills like playing an instrument or coding, you can break down the process into smaller tasks and review them at spaced intervals. This repetition helps you refine techniques, build muscle memory, and gradually improve your proficiency. In short, spaced repetition can be adapted to any learning process where practice and reinforcement are key. If you need more specific examples, just let me know.
Okay, my next question is what are the best time gap for spaced repetition day one to day three?
The optimal time gaps for spaced repetition can vary depending on what you're learning and your own memory retention rate. But a common approach is something like this. Day one, initial learning or review. Day two, review again about 24 hours later. Day 4 or 5, another review around 2 to 3 days after the previous one. And then day 7 to 10, a review about a week later. Day 14 to 21, another review 2 weeks later. And then day 30, a final review about a month later. These intervals can be adjusted based on how well you retain the information. Over time, you can extend the intervals as you get more confident with the material. If you want a more tailored schedule, we can definitely dive deeper.
Okay, great answer and great explanation. And my next question is can spaced repetition be used for learning coding or AI concepts?
Absolutely. Spaced repetition can be super effective for learning complex AI concepts as well. For example, you can break down AI topics like neural networks, machine learning algorithms, or data pre-processing into smaller, digestible chunks. Then you review these chunks at spaced intervals to reinforce your understanding. This method helps you retain key definitions, understand intricate concepts, and remember important techniques more effectively. You can also use spaced repetition for reviewing code snippets, algorithms, or even theoretical concepts like bias variance trade-offs. It's a flexible technique that can be tailored to virtually any aspect of AI learning. If you need more specific strategies, feel free to ask.
Okay, what a great answer. And my next question is, what tool or method can I use for spaced repetition without app?
There are quite a few tools and methods you can use for spaced repetition without relying on apps. For instance, you can create your own physical flashcards and then use a manual review schedule. You could also keep a notebook or journal and jot down concepts, then review them at spaced intervals. Another method is to use a calendar or planner to schedule your reviews, making sure you gradually increase the intervals as you go along. If you prefer digital but want something simple, you can even use spreadsheet software like Excel or Google Sheets to set up your own space repetition system. So you got plenty of options depending on what works best for you. Let me know if you need recommendations on any specific method.
Okay. My next
You're
question is,
welcome.
what is a habit loop, cue, routine, reward in simple terms?
Exactly. A habit loop consists of three main components: a cue, which triggers the habit, a routine, which is the behavior itself, and a reward, which is the benefit you get from completing the habit. Over time, this loop helps reinforce the behavior, making it more automatic. It's a powerful concept for building positive habits or breaking bad ones. If you want to dive deeper, just let me know.
Okay. My next question is, how do habits form in the brain over time?
Great question. Habits form in the brain through a process called neuroplasticity. When you repeat a behavior consistently, the brain creates and strengthens neural pathways associated with that behavior. Over time, the more you practice, the more automatic that behavior becomes, and the brain essentially encodes it into a habit loop. The basal ganglia, a part of the brain, plays a key role in storing these habits. As the habit becomes more ingrained, it requires less conscious effort and becomes more automatic. If you're curious about specific steps or tips for building habits, just let me know.
Okay. My next question is, how can I redesign the bad habit using the bad loop mode?
Redesign Redesigning a bad habit often involves a few key steps. First, you want to identify the cue or trigger that leads to the habit, then try to replace the routine with a healthier or more productive behavior that provides a similar reward. It also helps to make the new habit more convenient and the old habit less tempting. Additionally, you can use positive reinforcement and track your progress to keep yourself motivated. Over time, this process helps weaken the old habit and strengthen the new, healthier one. If you'd like more specific techniques or examples, just let me know.
Okay. And my next question is, what role does reward play in making a habit stick?
Reward receiver after a spin with a positive outcome. This association makes it more likely that you'll repeat that behavior in the future. Essentially, the reward acts as a positive enforcement that helps solidify a habit loop. Without a reward, it's much harder for the habit to stick, because the brain won't find that behavior as rewarding or meaningful. If you'd like to explore more about how to leverage rewards, just let me know.
Great explanation. And my next question is that, how long does it realistically take to build a habit?
the length of time it takes to form a habit can vary quite a bit depending on the complexity of the behavior and the individual. On average, research suggests it can take anywhere from about 18 to 254 days for a habit to form, with the average being around 66 days. Simpler habits tend to form more quickly, while more complex ones can take longer. Consistency and patience are key, and it helps to track your progress and celebrate small wins along the way. If you want more detailed guidance, feel free to ask.
Okay, great one. And my next question is,
You,
how can I make learning a daily habit using habit loop?
that's a great goal. To make learning a daily habit using a habit loop, you can start by choosing a consistent cue, like a specific time of day or an existing routine, such as after breakfast or before bed. Pick a short and manageable learning routine, like reading a few pages of a book or watching a short education video. Finally, reward yourself after each session, whether it's with a small treat, a break, or a bit of relaxation. Over time, the consistency, the cue, the routine, and the reward will help solidify learning as a daily habit. It's also helpful to keep track of your progress and adjust as needed to keep yourself motivated. If you need more specific tips, just let me know.
Okay. And my next question is, how can spaced repetition be turned into a daily habit?
To turn spaced repetition into a daily habit, you can integrate it into your routine at a consistent time each day. For example, set aside a specific period, maybe 10 or 15 minutes each day dedicated solely to reviewing what you've learned. You can use digital tools like flashcard apps that send you reminders, or even a physical set of flashcards that you keep in a visible spot. Over time, as you consistently review at those intervals, it becomes second nature. It's also helpful to link the review sessions to some habit, like right after your morning coffee or before going to bed. This consistency will help reinforce the habit over time. If you need any more specific strategies, just
What a great explanation and great uh, one. And my next question is, how do habit
I'm
loop help me stay consistent with spaced repetition?
habit loops can really support consistency with spaced repetition by creating a structured routine. When you establish a consistent cue, like a certain time or place, and pair it with your spaced repetition review, your brain starts to associate that cue with the learning activity. Over time, the routine becomes more automatic, reducing the need for willpower. The reward you give yourself after each review session helps reinforce that behavior, making it more likely that you'll stick with it. As you keep repeating this loop, it naturally builds consistency and it helps you stay on track with your learning goals. If you have any more questions or read more details, just let me know.
Yeah, sure. I have a more question, and my next question is, what is a simple daily routine that combine both techniques?
Absolutely. A simple daily routine that combines both spaced repetition and habit loops might look something like this. One, morning cue, start your day by setting a specific time, like right after breakfast or during your morning coffee, as your cue to a short learning spaced repetition. You could use flashcards, an app, or even notes with an existing right after your morning coffee or before you start work. So it becomes second nature. Four, reward yourself. After completing your review, give yourself a small reward, like a short break, a treat, or a moment of relaxation. Five, even reflection, enforce what you learned during the day. By consistently linking these steps, you'll build a routine that incorporates both spaced repetition and habit formation, making it easier to stay consistent and effective. If you need more details or have other questions, just let me know.
Okay. And my last question is, how can I use this method to avoid burnout?
That's a really important consideration. To avoid burnout, you can use these methods by keeping your learning sessions short and manageable. For example, limit your review time to just 10 or 15 minutes at a stretch and make sure to incorporate breaks and rewards to keep yourself refreshed. It's also helpful to listen to your body and mind if you're feeling fatigued. It's okay to take a break or adjust the schedule. Another key is to keep your learning enjoyable and varied so it doesn't become monotonous. Mixing up the content or the format can keep things interesting. And of course, make sure you're balancing learning with relaxation and other activities you enjoy. Incorporating these strategies will help you maintain a sustainable and balanced approach to learning. If you have any other questions or need more tips, just let me know.
Okay, that's all for today. Talk with ChatGPT. I hope you learned something new and useful. If you enjoyed this conversation, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next talk. Take care. Goodbye. Allah Hafiz.
That sounds great. I'm really glad you found it helpful. Thanks